Introducing Peacock, the new free streaming service from NBC Universal. It's hit movies, current shows, live sports, trending bits, and timeless hits. And that's why you can't not watch. Peacock. Watch for free. Upgrade for more. Stream now at peacocktv.com. Law & Order SVU streaming now.
This is CBS Eye on the World. I'm John Batchelor. I welcome Daniel Henniger, the deputy editor of the editorial page of the Wall Street Journal, writing Wonderland, his column, beginning with an analysis of where we are in the pandemic and where we are in the culture, having to do with all the turmoil of this last year, accusations, blame shifting, doubts, elections, all of that excitement here at July 4th. And Dan has identified something that is striking. You don't see it at first because it's an election, a primary election in a city that is so dominantly blue, that is Democratic. You cannot find contrast, but in this instance, perhaps. Dan, a very good evening to you. July 4th. You ask, whose July 4th is it? And the presumption of this last year is that the lead's been changing hands many times. But right now, the election in New York City for the new mayor, it is not determined. Ranked voting, ballot counting, absentee ballots to be open. But the leader since the first night is Eric Adams, a former police captain in the NYPD, the borough president, and a man who speaks of law and order and restoring safety to the streets of Manhattan after the pandemic. What does that tell you, Dan, about where we are at July 4th? Good evening to you.
Hi there, John. I think it tells us a lot, and who would have thought that New York City could be a signpost along the way for the nation's politics. At the end of this last and disturbing year that we have been through. We've all watched politics. We see there's been a lot of progressive activism this past year. We've had the pandemic, but we also had the George Floyd protest, hundreds of cities, some of it often turning violent. The progressives pushed an idea called systemic or structural racism, critical race theory. There have been battles over that. And there's opinion polls. One always wonders, what is the country making of all this? And the expectation is that the Democrats have moved to the left, been taken over by the Progressive Party. Here we are having a mayoral election in New York City, a solid blue city. And I think widely regarded as now a progressive city. Indeed, the mayor, Bill de Blasio, is a card-carrying progressive. The city council is very progressive. But in this election primary that we had, on primary day, the election's still being counted, but on primary day itself, the results were clear and absolutely revealing. What it showed was that the progressive candidate, Maya Wiley, who came in third on voting day, got almost all of her votes in the western part of Brooklyn, which are mostly upper and upper middle class neighborhoods. Catherine Garcia won all of the districts south of Harlem. She won almost the entirety of Manhattan, which is to say upper middle class neighborhoods. Eric Adams, who was the most unabashedly, unapologetically pro-police, pro-cop, pro-law and order candidate, borough president of Brooklyn, a former cop himself, a black guy, he won, if you look at a color-coded map, virtually all of the poorer, most crime-beset neighborhoods in Brooklyn, the Bronx, Queens, Harlem, in northern Manhattan, and Staten Island. All those areas voted for the pro-cop, anti-progressive candidate, Eric Adams, which I think can be regarded as a real-world test of exactly how far not only how far the progressives are going, but who their support comes from. And mostly it comes from elite, upper middle-class people who has kind of, you can live on the 20th floor of an apartment and just literally rise above the reality of the world's problems, the country's problems, taking place down on the street.
Dan, because this is an early indicator, how do you measure the country's sense of confidence here at mid-year, given the turmoil? And I'm not just keying on Washington. I'm really talking about our ability to go back outside again. If that's where we are, there are questions about variance. But to go back outside again, and America's relationship with its own origins, with its own history. I know we talk about, well, who was the origin of the virus? Let's talk about the origin of America. Are we as confident now after the pandemic, whatever has happened, as we were before? Or the statue pulling over, has that challenged our assumption of who we are?
Well, at this point in time, John, we are not as confident as we were beforehand. There's been some opinion polling on that recently that has shown a drop amongst most people on their confidence in the United States. And I do think that is a consequence of the extraordinary year we went through, the pandemic, which involved the closing down of most of the economy. People were told to go home, and they did. And then, as I just mentioned, simultaneously, last summer's protests and riots, these were two amazingly consequential events happening simultaneously, neither of them particularly positive. And so now we're trying to emerge from all that. There were no 4th of July parades last year. Now, this weekend, towns are across America restaging their 4th of July parades with the fireworks, with the fire trucks. And I think what you're seeing here is a kind of natural instinct on the part of the American people to right the ship, that we got too far off balance for the good of the country, and then people are trying to restore that balance, that things had just gone too far. Where the politics ultimately will shape out is hard to predict, but I think it's going to move much more towards the center and more stability, towards stability than we have seen in the past 12 months.
This is a personal opinion. Is it safe to put Ulysses Grant back and again tell the story of a man who saved the Union? Is it safe now, Dan, or should I wait some more months? I
think it's safe. That's an interesting question. Grant, along with Abraham Lincoln, Thomas Jefferson, Francis Scott Key, who wrote the Star-Spangled Banner, he was torn down too, John. I think most of those people could go back up on their pedestals, that this paroxysm of violence and anti-American humor that we saw last summer, I don't think it has disappeared, but I think the intensity has waned as the shock over all of that sank in, and the backlash from just kind of common, normal American people. So I don't know. I'm going to go out. Maybe I'll go uptown into the Grant's tomb here in New York City and take a look, see how Ulysses is faring this 4th of July.
And New York City. We've had a bad patch here, Dan. The crime is obvious to everyone now, including the national media that doesn't live here. Do we believe that New York can restore itself with a mayor who believes in security first and prosperity accompanying it?
Well, this is the harder lift. The Democrats this past week have been actually fantastically saying that the defund the police movement was not the fault of the Democrats, but of Republicans opposing Joe Biden's stimulus spending. Just quite extraordinary. The fact of the matter is that the crime occurring in cities across the country is the result not so much of money, but the discrediting and delegitimizing of the police. And once the police pull back, the criminals move forward. And reversing that process, if Eric Adams wins in New York, that reversal will begin. But it's going to be difficult. The police took a heavy blow in big cities across the country, and restoring their confidence in the sense that the public's behind them is not going to happen overnight. But one can only hope that we push back in that direction, because our biggest and most important cities really need it.
Daniel Henniger is the deputy editor of the editorial page of the Wall Street Journal. He writes the Wonderland column for the Wall Street Journal. All eyes on the mayoral race in New York. The winner of the primary will certainly be the winner of the City Hall come January 1st, 2022. This is CBS Eye on the World. I'm John Batchelor.
You're listening to CBS Eye on the World with John Batchelor.
Hey guys, this is Gabby Douglas. If you have an active lifestyle like me, hydration is key. That's why I love the Hydration Watermelon Smoothie from Smoothie King. Blended with whole fruits, coconut water, and more electrolytes than some of the leading sports drinks, Hydration Watermelon is the cleaner way to hydrate with no artificial colors, flavors, or preservatives. So you can recover and perform at your peak ability during the summer heat. Order online or through the app for pickup or delivery. Smoothie King, rule the day.
This is for Busch Gardens Williamsburg. Spot titled BGW/21/census/SN/July 4th/save up to 40%/FC/tickets/radio. It's a 30-second spot, and the code is VBGW021039R.
Nothing ignites your senses like the European adventures and world-class thrills of Busch Gardens Williamsburg. Hear the gravity-defying drops and speed of our record-breaking coasters. See the world's most beautiful theme park as you stroll through our elegantly themed villages. And treat all your senses to the live concerts, nightly fireworks and coasters in the dark at Summer Nights, June 25th to July 29th. Save up to 40% on tickets and fun cards. Hurry, offer ends soon. Restrictions apply.